This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning. Welcome to the Saturday edition of Racing Across America. I am Seth Merrow, and we thank you for joining us this morning. Do want to alert you that if you're up in the Queensbury area, there is a Fan Appreciation Day today. Queensbury branch, that's in the Mount Royal Shopping Plaza on Route 9. That runs from noon until 5 today. The first 50 folks through the door get a bet voucher giveaway item, racing program. There's a contest. There's food and beverage. Should be a lot of fun. Noon to 5 today, the Queensbury branch give us our chance to say thank you to you at a Fan Appreciation Day. Tomorrow, as always throughout the NFL season, playoffs underway. It's an NFL Sunday. Here at the Clubhouse Racebook, you can swing by, watch all the football action, and all the racing action as well. Tomorrow, Football Sunday, here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Also, a 1% bonus on your Aqueduct wagers tomorrow, Sunday. There are some restrictions. Check out the website for more information, capitalotb.com. On today's edition of the show, we will be joined live a little bit later by the Big A, Anthony Stabile. Just delve into a little bit of this afternoon's card at Aqueduct. We'll take a look at today's feature race and maybe a couple other races. The Safe Florida Sandy is the feature today, $100,000 up for grabs for sprinters going 7 furlongs. We'll hit on that one, and as I say, a couple other races as well a little bit later on with our friend Anthony Stabile. But top of the show, we recorded an interview yesterday. A lot of times it's easier to get the trainers a little bit later in the day on Friday than it is, Saturday morning. At this time, really training hours kind of just wrapping up. So we reached out yesterday, Saffie Joseph Jr. And I kind of was wondering yesterday when we recorded the Handicappers Report, I was talking with Brian Addo, and I said, I don't think I've ever had Saffie officially on the show. I think perhaps on some of our visits down at Gulfstream, there may have been an opportunity to maybe catch up with them in the winner's circle or something at some point for a minute or two. But I don't think we've ever sat down and talked to Saffie Joseph, and I've been talking about him for at least the past year and a half. Certainly, if you watch Gulfstream, and I know a lot of folks in the audience do, particularly this time of year, but Saffie Joseph has kind of become more and more prominent in a name that a lot of us now find notable and follow down there in the training scene. High off the claim percentage guy. But last weekend, 3 stakes wins last Saturday, and he's starting to get some notable owners. Matt Shera, the owner, the Mid-Atlantic region owner that certainly we're familiar with up at Saratoga. E5 Racing, Bob Edwards, another prominent owner that he won for last weekend. So I thought we'd have Saffie on, talk a little bit about last weekend and those horses. Also touch on, he has a stakes horse today, Tusk, down at Gulfstream, and a couple others on the undercard at Gulfstream, hit on some of the horses today at Gulfstream. And then he has a couple in the barn. Math Wizard, we got caught up with that one. And also Tonalist's Shape, a nice undefeated 3-year-old filly. Got a little update on her as well. So up next, trainer Saffie Joseph. Happy to be joined now by trainer Saffie Joseph Jr. Folks watching Gulfstream, certainly he has come on the radar over the past couple of seasons and has a nice stakes runner in the tropical turf on Saturday. We'll talk about that, but I also wanted to go back and talk about last Saturday, a great day for Saffie. 3 stakes wins, get a little update on those horses, and a couple others in the barn that I wanted updates on. Saffie, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Happy to have you on. As I say, the big day last week, want to get some recap on that and a little preview of this Saturday in Tusk in the tropical turf. But before we do that, we're up here in the Saratoga area, and certainly our viewers, these days you can follow Gulfstream all year long, but with the New York-based connections going south in the wintertime, our viewers pay a lot of attention to Gulfstream. And as I say, you've come on the radar for a lot of folks over the past couple of years watching Gulfstream. So for our viewers who are unfamiliar, just give us a little background. How did you get into the horse racing game?
Well, I was born in Barbados and grew up there in Barbados. My dad was a trainer. Before my dad, my granddad owned horses. So I was basically born into racing and trained in Barbados. Started training at 18. We won the Triple Crown with a nice horse named Ari talking to me over there, and then came over to America in 2011. We were 22, and from then we just gradually built it up. And I would say the last year and a half, we picked up a lot of really good clients, and we just keep working hard and keep trying to win races.
Yeah, that's going to be notable when we go to last Saturday. Some names that folks are familiar with on the owner side, so congratulations there. But I assume with your dad being a trainer and your granddad being in the game, you've been around the barn since you were a little kid.
Yeah, so basically I've been around horses since I was like a walk, basically, my whole life, and they are my life.
And you're now, the base of operations is Gulfstream Park for you?
Yeah, we're based at Gulfstream. That's our base, and we're based here year-round. I think this year we're probably going to branch out to Kentucky with a string and build from there.
Nice. All right, let's talk a little bit about Saturday before we go and recap last week and get a little preview of Tusk in the tropical turf. Might turn out to be a crafty little claim. You and the owners picked this horse up, Belmont, back at the end of October, and then came down and tried the Claiming Crown Emerald. We're going to take a look at that race off the claim. It's going to be number 5, Mugzamatic winning, Preciado number 4 running second, and your horse number 2, Tusk, runs third in the Claiming Crown Emerald. Talk a little bit about this race, what you thought of the first start off the claim, and what you're looking at coming out of this, moving into the tropical turf on Saturday for Tusk.
Well, in that race, we wanted to be a little more forward pace than we were. He's kind of a horse that doesn't have a big turn of foot, more even, and we got a little traffic trouble, and then he kind of just got out kicked. But we were happy with the run. We thought he ran a good race, and we're obviously taking the next step up in class, but we feel like he deserves a chance. On the numbers, he stacks up. That it's not impossible.
You mentioned the pace, and he is a horse that has a lot of early pace, and again, didn't quite show it last time. But what is your scenario for Saturday? Because there's pace, obviously, in the tropical turf, particularly a Thread of Blue, but a couple other horses in here have some early pace as well. So what's your scenario for Tusk on Saturday?
Yeah, ideally we were hoping to get a race that we would look to one of the speed horses, but in this race, it's actually come out with a lot of speed. You got a Thread of Blue, you got Gem and Tear, and Gidu gets pretty rank in his races, so there's a ton of speed. Hopefully we can just get over, and maybe 2 of them hook up in front, and we could track them. We'll probably leave it to Tyler. They'll just play the break and see what happens from there. I think he has enough speed to put himself in a good spot. The main thing is that when it's time to go, he probably needs to go a little bit earlier than he would with a normal horse, because he doesn't have that really fast turn of foot.
Yeah, I handicapped the race because I'm doing the handicapping show tomorrow, and I have him right in the mix. I think he's going to be very competitive. As I say, that may turn out to be a very crafty claim. Just before we move back to last Saturday, I wanted to touch on one more horse you have in this week, going to the 7th race, an optional claimer. Give some folks maybe a little heads up with their Rainbow 6 ticket with New York Traffic. You had him entered in one of the stakes races last week as a main track only entrant, but enters on Saturday in an optional claimer. This is a salty little race. This is a horse that has just moved into your barn, but boy, that workout the other day looks pretty good. Give us a heads up, race 7 on Saturday for New York Traffic.
Well, New York Traffic, his first 2 races were very good. First time out in Parks, he was 3rd to Independence Hall, and then he came back after and broke his maiden in impressive fashion. The horse that was second behind him came back to win the stake at Laurel, and his next 2 races were a bit below par. And after that, they sent him down to us at Gulfstream. He's trained good each week. Each week his work has got better, and his last work, I know the time was quick, but if you see the visual of it, the visual was more impressive, and we're excited to get him started. The unknown will be stretching him out. That's the unknown, obviously going longer than he's ever gone before. But he seems like he looks like a horse that will stretch out. And we think he's drawn well. That if he could get away from there cleanly and maybe put himself in a good spot, we think he's going to run well.
All right, New York Traffic again in the 7th. Let's go back to last week and get some updates and some thoughts on, first of all, just congratulations. Give us your feeling when you come out of a day like that with 3 stakes wins.
Oh, it's those are the days that you dream of, to have a day like everything just go to plan. I think we ran 5 horses that day, and even the ones that ran second, 2 others, they ran beyond their odds. And we're just thankful that everything fell into place and all the horses ran their races. And it's a dream day. I mean, you only dream of those kind of days, but most of the time it doesn't happen.
Let's take a look at some of those races. The Kitten's Joy. I talk a lot about it. One of the subdivisions I really like year in and year out, 3-year-olds on the turf. I think there's opportunities all over the place in the United States during the year for these kind of horses. And the Kitten's Joy down at Gulfstream kind of kicked off that 3-year-old on the turf season, at least in the Florida area. We're going to look at Island Commish, the number 8 horse, that you train for. Matt Shearer, a name that our folks are familiar with. Again, tossing out some owners that you've got. Matt Shearer is certainly prominent in the Mid-Atlantic region, and we see him often up at Saratoga. He owns Island Commish. This is a horse that early in the career tried the Proud Man in only his second career start. Other than that, this was the other stakes performance on the resume. Also a graded stakes performance, the Grade 3 Kitten's Joy, a nice win that we just saw the stretch run there. Talk a little bit about Island Commish coming in off a couple of nice wins into that stakes race. Now 3 for the last 3. Your thoughts on Island Commish?
Yeah, his first, going into that race, he was coming off 2 nice wins at Gulfstream Port West. Both were at 7.5, and visually they were very impressive. They didn't have much behind him, but we thought off of those 2 runs he deserved a chance, and Matt was keen to take a shot. And we figured he was doing as good as we could get him, that if he was ever going to prove to be this kind of horse, now was the time to do it. And still didn't expect him to show up and run so big, but thankfully he did. And he's a cool little horse, not very big, but has a lot of body to him and has a really good turn of foot.
Paco Lopez has been on for these last 3 wins. What has he said when he's gotten off the horse?
Paco has a lot of confidence in him. After his second time he rode him and he won his second race in the road, he kept asking him when he's running back. And even coming into the paddock, Paco was very confident. I wasn't as confident as him because I knew we were taking a big step up in class. But Paco has been high on him since he's ridden him, and he was right. Give all credit to him. He was definitely right about his ability.
What's up next for him? And I'm asking because do you agree with me that I think that 3-year-old division on the turf offers a lot of opportunities? So if you have a nice 3-year-old, and at this point in the year, it looks like you do, it looks like going out the summer has all kinds of possibilities for moving around and going nice places with a horse like this. So what are your thoughts up next, certainly, but for the year for a horse like this in that 3-year-old turf division?
Yeah, definitely there's a lot of opportunities for a turf horse at 3-year-old, and we know it's going to be a long year. So initially before this race, there was a starter stake in February that we figured if we couldn't compete at graded level, we would go to. I'm talking to Matt after. He has no problem of actually retracting and going still to the starter stake, the easier spot. And after that, he says we could take a chance in a bigger race with a bigger pot. So most likely we'll probably go back to the starter stake, and then maybe after that try something big again.
Very good. Let's move on to the Glitter Woman. We're going to look at number 8, Sound Machine, getting it done. 4th career start, and again, talking about prominent owners. Goes out for E5 Racing, Bob Edwards and company. Ran second in the house party just before that, and then comes back 4th career start. Sound Machine wins the Glitter Woman last week in fine fashion. Your thoughts coming out of the Glitter Woman for Sound Machine?
Very impressed with her to see her deliver like that. She's always showed glimmer and talent, but we could never just get her quite where we wanted her to be, and that was definitely her best performance visually and on the numbers of her life so far. And it gets you excited because she relaxed. The distance going in was a little question mark for me, but she handled it well, and she won as good as you could want her to win. I think there's a Inspire that's probably one that we may target. And I think she's a filly that the way she won the other day, there's better races in her resume to come.
Yeah, that had the look, and would you consider a little bit of a breakout performance in the fourth career start?
Yes, most definitely. First time out, she won well. The form didn't work out much from that race. Then she came back. I mean, I think mainly it's probably our fault. We couldn't get a race at Gulfstream. We shipped to the Keeneland because we got a little antsy. Ran disappointed there. Got her back home again. She ran second in the stake, third time out, but it wasn't anything to rant about. It was just in my opinion, a mediocre run. Definitely a breakout performance for her today. She won well, and the numbers came back pretty decent. I think if she can build on that, the future is bright for her.
By Into Mischief, as a handicapper, I love the Into Mischiefs as horses that are precocious, win sooner rather than later, proven to be a very nice sire over the past couple of years. As a trainer, when you get an Into Mischief horse into your barn, do you note, can you tell that level of precociousness?
Yeah, she definitely, that was one thing why the distance was a little question mark, because she would give you a good kick and then it would kind of just simmer off. And we realized with her that she doesn't want to be rushed. The more relaxed you could be on her earlier on, then the kick is more sustainable. And she obviously a high purchase price filly, picked out by Mike Ryan for Bob from E5 Racing. They paid $500,000 for her, so she definitely came in with expectations. And the way she won the other day, I think that she has a chance to live up to those expectations.
And I know it's pretty far down the road, but as they say, we're up here in Saratoga, a 3-year-old filly that has some nice sprint potential. And with Bob Edwards owning, I believe his wife is from Saratoga, so maybe we'll see you up here for the test.
Yes, yes, that would be nice to get her there. Bob obviously loves Saratoga. He has a home there, so it would be nice to get her with her.
We broadcast every morning from the backstretch up at Saratoga, so you have the open invite if you wind up there. Another one that potentially could wind up in Saratoga, I would think, is Chance It. Let's take a look at the Mucho Macho Man from last Saturday. This was a gutsy performance. Chance It, who had run well, obviously, in prior starts, coming into the race, 3 wins in 5 career starts, including a really nice win in the In Reality division of the Sire Stakes down there. But now was stepping into open company, the Mucho Macho Man, and kind of stepping onto the 3-year-old trail for 2020. Chance It's going to be the number 2 horse. As seen on TV, also very talented for trainer Kelly Breen. And these two throw it down in the stretch. Number 2, Chance It. Number 4, as seen on TV. And as I say, this is really gutsy. As a trainer, you have to be thrilled when your horse gets in a battle like this and comes out on the winning end.
Oh, for sure. And I'm a big believer in Chance It, but even to see him do that made me even more of a believer. I mean, the heart, off of a layoff for 4 months or so, he had every reason that he could give it in and get B at length 2. And I would have been disappointed to get B, because obviously every time he's my best horse, and it hurts me to see him get beat. But I would have walked away knowing that it wasn't his fault. It just the layoff got to him, and to see him dig back in and just find a way to win when he had every reason to give in, it just shows what kind of horse he is and what kind of determination and heart he has. And truly blessed to have a horse like him. And fingers crossed, all can continue to go well. And I think the sky's the limit for him. He has a lot of class, a lot of talent, and I think that was his most impressive race to date, just with the circumstances. He didn't sit the best trip. He was inside the whole way. Paco kind of had him in the pocket, and he knew he had him in the pocket. And for a horse to take dirt and be able to be inside, those are normally things that get you beat. Sometimes with those kind of trips, you get beat 5-6 lengths. And he just overcame it, and that's what good horses do. They find a way to win, and just really excited with him.
Yeah, to come back on the inside like that, chart margin a victory by a head, and as I say, a real stretch duel with another talented horse. Clearly, bona fide sprinter, obviously proven so far. The In Reality was at 1 1/16, and I guess with a talented 3-year-old at this time of the year, the options are all on the table. What's potentially up next for Chance It?
I would say probably between the Holy Bull and the Fountain of Youth, most likely maybe the Fountain of Youth is the favorite, because it gives us 8 weeks back there approximately, and then we could go to the Florida Derby after that, all being well. So I would say probably the Fountain of Youth, but we haven't decided yet. We're probably deciding maybe the next 7 or 8 days.
And I'm looking at the PPs here for Chance. It looks like he also is a very good workhorse, looking by the bullets underneath typically.
Oh yeah, see, everything he does, he makes it look so easy. And when he's on the track, you can't fault him at all. And even visually, as far as looking at a horse, he has the look, he has the body to go with it, he has the legs, and he has the head on him. Like, he's just a really, really good horse, and we're thankful that he's in our barn.
And you've mentioned a couple of times the figures. As a trainer, do you look at figures as part of your training regimen? This horse may bounce, so let's give this one a little more time and that kind of thing. And if you do, what figures do you take a look at?
Yeah, I actually look at all the figures. I would say I rely mostly on the buyers, but I use all of them to compare. I think if they're all in tandem, as in they're all pointing towards good numbers, I think the numbers are more legit. If one figure says, say the buyer is good and the bridge net's not good and the equibase is not good, then I kind of put a little question mark next to the figures. But when they all match up, I definitely think that they're legit numbers, and I think that shows, like, even in the claiming horses, when you see the numbers matching up, it makes it much more easier to claim horses when the numbers all match up on all the different figures. I'm big on using the numbers.
Very good. Let's move on. As I said at the top of the interview, there's a couple of horses in the barn that I also want to catch up with. First of those, obviously, Math Wizard. Last time out, ran fifth in the Breeders' Cup. It was a pretty good split the field in there. Came out of that earlier last year. That crazy maiden claiming race. Math Wizard comes out, Maximum Security comes out. Boy, there's never going to be a maiden claiming race like that again. But subsequently, later in the year, and we're going to take a look now at the stretch run, Pennsylvania Derby, number 1 will be Math Wizard, getting up by a neck over Mr. Money, War of Will, and Improbable at 31-1. And as I read some bio information on you, not only your first Grade 1 victory, but this was your first graded stakes victory, I believe. Grade 1, $1 million. Give us your feeling as they're coming down the stretch and your horse winds up winning the Pennsylvania Derby for $1 million.
Oh, it was amazing. He's come there some races before and had materialized. To see it happen that day, for him to get his head in front of the wire, it was surreal, and it was a priceless feeling. And can't thank him enough, Matt Wizard, for what he's done for us. And right now, the main target is to get to the Saudi Cup. The Pegasus is probably an outside chance, but the main thing is to try to get the Saudi in good form.
I read that he worked the other day. How's he been looking since coming out of the Breeders' Cup?
That was his second work the other day, went a half, and he moved well. He's probably going to go 5/8 on Sunday, or maybe a stiffer half with a good gallop out, and he's in good form right now. We just need to continue to build on him, and each week, hopefully, each week progress with him.
And you say potentially Pegasus, also looking at the Saudi. Would that be potentially Pegasus and Saudi, or is it one or the other?
Yeah, so Saudi is the main thing. If we want to prep him before, it would be the Pegasus.
Okay.
But Saudi is the number one goal. Pegasus is still in the radar, but it's unlikely. If you were to say right now, it's unlikely. But we haven't totally excluded it.
And when are you going to make your decision? Couple more works?
Yeah, I think after this Sunday we get a better idea, and then the last work will probably be our indicator if we go or not.
And again, already has $1 million race. A $20 million race would be pretty good on the resume. And before we let you go, I wanted to go back also and take a look. November 30th, we're looking at the Hut. It is tonalist shape. I read that she worked as well with the calendar changing. She is now a 3-year-old filly and undefeated with this victory, now 3 for 3. And again, as I read, there was a workout recently. Just update us on tonalist shape and what the undefeated filly may be aimed for next.
She's a very nice filly and won well the other day. First time going a mile, and she always seems like she wants to go distance. The next race in the mind is a Forward Gal on February 1st, the Grade 3 going 7/8, and I think that'll be a start-up point. We're cutting her back and trip a little bit with 7/8, but I think that's well within our reach, and then hopefully stay on the Oaks path and gradually step her up in class.
Again, Saffie, congratulations on the big weekend last week. And as I was doing the handicapping show, I was noting the owners like Matt Shearer and E5 Racing. And I said you've come on the radar for a lot of folks over the past year and a half, couple of years down in Florida. But it seems like maybe a breakout year where you will be taking some of these horses to other venues and hopefully up in our neck of the woods, Saratoga, this summer. So again, congratulations on the success so far, and good luck going forward.
Thank you so much, and I can't thank my owners enough. I mean, they're the ones that make it happen. They provide you with these horses, and when you have owners that are giving us and going out of their way to help you and provide these kind of horses, success is going to happen. And hopefully we can be at Saratoga this year with a string also.
Yeah.
We're just blessed and thankful, and we just want to keep winning races.
Looking forward to it. And again, you have the open invitation to come sit on the set with us some morning up at Saratoga. Saffie, appreciate it. We'll talk again.
Thanks a lot. Take care, guys.
Saffie Joseph Jr., again, Tusk, New York traffic among the runners on Saturday, but again, talked a little bit about some talented runners as well, and Math Wizards and tonalist shape. So Saffie Joseph on a roll, as it were.
Wagering on horse racing just got a lot easier at Capital OTB with our newly designed state-of-the-art mobile wagering site. Everything you need is right here on one easy-to-navigate mobile platform. Set your favorite tracks, pick your horses, place your bets, all with a simple tap of the screen. Plus, you'll have access to Capital OTB TV for all our network programming. So log on to CapitalOTBBet.com and see just how easy wagering on horse racing can be.
Welcome to Albany County, an incredible destination to live, work, and play, with easy connections to more than a dozen cities from our vibrant modern airport. It's a short trip downtown to a hive of culture and amusement, from world-class shows at the newly renovated Times Union Center to reliving the past at the New York State Museum. From outdoor recreation to shopping to nightlife, Albany County has something for everyone. We'll see you soon.
Here's some exciting news from Capital OTB. Capital Off-Track Betting and the Rivers Casino have partnered to bring you the finest experience in wagering on all your favorite thoroughbred and harness tracks from right inside the casino. Our newest location is open daily and can be found at Van Flick's Bar, offering live tellers, self-serve betting terminals, racing information kiosks, and all the amenities you come to expect from Capital OTB. See you at the Rivers Casino in Schenectady.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Again, thanks to Saffie Joseph Jr. for taking the time yesterday to sit in with us. Really appreciated that. Again, he's a guy, to me, he seems like he's on the cusp of becoming nationally prominent. And again, some of those horses that won last weekend, you would think can move out to other venues. We'll see what Math Wizard does this year as an older horse. So, again, appreciated the visit from Saffie Joseph. Things to watch today, and again, in a few minutes, we will be joined by Anthony Stabile, get some ideas for Aqueduct Racing this afternoon. And if you're watching Aqueduct Racing, one of the sub-stories, Linda Rice on the verge of a career milestone. She's at 1998 as far as career wins, according to Equibase, so 2 away from the 2,000 career win milestone. She's got horses before scratches are announced in the 5th and the 6th race today. We'll see if she can get the milestone this weekend down in New York. Again, sitting right on the verge of that. Another thing to keep in mind for today, they continue with the Rainbow guarantees down at Gulfstream. Currently, the guarantee for the Rainbow Pick 6, $2.5 million. I've said it now for at least a week and a half or so. Take your shot, 20 cents. Put together a little ticket. Today, we talked about it in the Handicappers Report this morning, Brian Otto and I. Tough sequence today, I will admit. I took a little shot yesterday. Literally, I think my ticket was $12, and I got knocked out early. But the $50 horse made me perfectly happy that I didn't go much deeper. And even with the $50 horse in the mix, as they got to the last leg, there were still 217 tickets alive. And as Brian and I mentioned on the handicapping show this morning, with the pool where it is now and the money that's getting put in every day, it's hard for that single ticket to happen unless it's really outside the box. But just with the number of tickets, there are so many combinations covered. It's tough for somebody to walk down with the whole prize. As again, last last Wednesday, $33 winner, $44 winner, $55 winner, and I thought they had a chance of going today, but no, there were multiple winners on that day. And again, it's just so many combinations are covered now with the pool where it is. But that just means consolations for a sequence that can be fairly logical. You can wind up $800, $1,200 perhaps. So again, for the 20-cent increment, you can put together a nice ticket for $40, $60. I just missed last Sunday with a $19 ticket, and I just missed. So again, $2.5 million guarantee in the Rainbow today down at Gulfstream. NTRA has posted their nominees for the 2019 NTRA Moment of the Year. Fans have a chance to vote on that until January 17th. They're looking at 14 of the most memorable, significant, and reflective events from the past 12 months. They call it the NTRA Moment of the Year. I've said this in previous years, and looking at the list again, I mean, and again, they describe it as most memorable, significant, and reflective events. That's probably would be a better title than 2019 NTRA Event of the Year, because some of these aren't really moments. But just to go down this year's list, Thunder Snow's Dubai World Cup, Maximum Security's DQ, and the Kentucky Derby. Now that one is interesting to me because it's such a historical event as far as the Kentucky Derby. A DQ of a winner in the Derby kind of jumps out as being an event that is clearly very, very memorable. It's one of those that will be talked about on the Derby broadcast for the foreseeable future, certainly. Bodie Express running off in the Preakness after dumping the jockey John Velasquez. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's really one to celebrate. I mean, it was a kooky kind of a thing, but Matoli winning the Met Mile, certainly on the racing side of things, that was notable. The passing of Mary Lou Whitney, for those of us in Saratoga, that was certainly a major event. Kafefi winning the test. Again, on the racing side, they actually have some interesting and some pretty good races in the mix. And Kafefi winning the test over Serengeti Empress was a notable race, and certainly can't argue with the Saratoga race being in the mix. Chad Brown sweeping the stakes races on the Arlington Million card, including the 3 Grade 1s. Again, that's pretty notable, and you would think historic also. That has to be fairly tough to live up to in years ahead, and so that one, again, kind of stacking up with the Derby DQ is just memorable on a historical record book kind of a thing. 4-Star Stormy is what they called. Got Stormy winning the Grade 1 4-Star Dave a week after winning the Della Rose. And again, that to me is notable as a notable race and just a good story from the Saratoga meet. Another Saratoga story, Midnight Bijou and a late throwing it down in the Personal Ensign. Omaha Beach winning the Santa Anita Sprint over Chancelot. Again, another good race selection. Belvoir Bay winning the Breeders' Cup race. And that one, you may say, well, what's particularly notable about that? She was in that fire in the San Luis Rey Training Center a couple of years ago. And so coming out of that and then subsequently winning a Breeders' Cup race, I guess overall that's a pretty good story. Irod Ortiz winning the Breeders' Cup Classic on Vino Rosso. Vino Rosso winning the Breeders' Cup Classic. Irod and his Breeders' Cup overall also on the list of the NTRA Moment of the Year. And as I say, a number of those aren't really moments. They're more memorable events. But interesting list. And again, if you want to participate, you have until January 17th. The actual moment will be unveiled at the Eclipse Awards, which are coming up on January 23rd. Also wanted to touch, as we go to a commercial, we have a video we'll play into the commercial break. I'm sure folks will remember the voice as a guy who got into the game as a kid. When I was a kid, I remember the old WOR shows from New York City. When cable first came in up here, WOR was one of the channels in the mix. And every Saturday afternoon, they would have a half-hour show from the NYRA tracks, whatever track was running, and they would show 3 races from NYRA, Frank Wright, Charles C. Canny, Dave Johnson. And then on Sunday night, they would be over at Yonkers or Roosevelt with Spencer Ross and Stan Bergstein. And so I certainly remember the voice of Bullet Bob Meyer, who was the race caller at Yonkers for years, moved on and was a race caller for a while at Saratoga as well. In recent years, going back a couple of years ago before he retired, he also was substituting with Mike Sardella on various days up at Saratoga. But boy, a distinctive voice. And again, if you were a fan of the game when I was, you remember this from those Saturday night programs on WOR. And as we go to a break, I pulled up, I thought we'd combine the voice of Bob Meyer and the talent of Niatros. And again, if you remember Niatros, his entire career, I pulled up, obviously, one of his notable victories. We're going to look at the Kane Pace from 1980 down at Yonkers and listen to the voice of Bob Meyer. But just, I want to throw in, for folks of my age, you might remember during the career of Niatros, one of the notable starts of his career was a non-victory. It was right up here at Saratoga, where in a relatively full field, it may have been a completely full field of 8, but it was not a small field by any means. But Niatros was taken out of the wagering. He was so talented at that point, they didn't want negative pools, so they pulled him out of the wagering. But subsequently, they got to the top of the stretch, and Niatros was being passed, felt the whip, I think, for the first time in his career, and went over the inside rail up at Saratoga, which at that time had that little rail, had the little hub rail. Now they have the pylons there, but there was actually a rail. Niatros went over in one of the lone non-wins of his career, notable just up the turnpike at Saratoga, as it were. But again, I pulled up so we can listen to the call of Bob Meyer, because again, I'm sure folks of my age remember this voice. And again, also in fairly recent times up at Saratoga, folks may remember Bob Meyer as well. But we bring it up because Bob Meyer had passed away recently, 80 years old. According to the article in the Daily Racing Form, started his career calling the races 1970 at Monticello. A couple of years later, he moved over to Yonkers and was there for a long run, and then a shorter run up at Saratoga, and then again towards the end of his career, substituting occasionally up at Saratoga as well. But Bob Meyer passed away just recently at 80 years old. Also, it's funny, the article here, speaking of remembering in the day, the author of the Daily Racing Form article says, I grew up listening to his calls in New York City OTB and via the 976 number where bettors could get a stretch call of the race. I remember those days where you used to have to call the number and type in, and you could listen to the call on the phone back in the I will say the bad old days where technology was what I mean, I guess it was better than not hearing the call at all, but it was very different than today when you turn on OTB TV and just watch races from all across the country. But as we go into the commercial break, here he is, Bullet Bob Meyer. Just as I say, I'm sure people will recognize the voice immediately and they'll click off a number of memories. Also, as we pull into this, you will hear, I think, a little bit from Stan Bergstein as well, another memorable voice, as they say, from those old WR shows. So as we go into the commercial, Bullet Bob Meyer. When we come out of the commercial, Anthony Stabile, a little look at this afternoon's races at Aqueduct. Stay tuned.
is Mr. Newton, 7 is Alberton. Could be a tough fall for Niatros, right, Stan?
Only if they get to the front ahead of him, Spencer, and I don't think they can outpace him at the start. We'll find out. Here's Bob.
They're off. Trenton Time on the inside tries for the lead. Niatros alongside second. Storm Damage third. Stone Racer fourth. Secret Service fifth. Mr. Newt sixth. Alberton seventh. Around the first turn, moving towards the backstretch. Niatros on the outside. Trenton Time on the inside, battling for the lead. Straightening out down the backstretch. Niatros on the outside in front by a half length. Trenton Time second. Gap of a length and a half. Storm Damage third. Stone Racer fourth. Secret Service fifth. Gap of 5 lengths. Mr. Newt sixth. Alberton seventh. Quarter time is 29-2. At the paddock turn the first time, Niatros in front by a length and a quarter. Trenton Time second. Storm Damage third. Stone Racer fourth. Secret Service fifth. Gap of a length and a half. Mr. Newt sixth. Alberton trails the field seventh. As they come by the stands the first time, that's Niatros on top by a length and a half. Trenton Time second. Storm Damage third. Stone Racer fourth. Secret Service fifth. Gap of a length and a half. Mr. Newt sixth. Alberton seventh. Halftime 59-4. Around the clubhouse turn the second time. Niatros maintaining a length advantage. Trenton Time second. Storm Damage third. Stone Racer fourth. Secret Service going to the outside fifth. Mr. Newt sixth. Alberton seventh. Down the backstretch, Niatros in front by a length and a quarter. Trenton Time second. Storm Damage third. Secret Service up on the outside fourth. Stone Racer on the inside fifth. Gap of 2 lengths. Mr. Newt sixth. Approaching the three-quarter pole. Niatros on top by a length. Storm Damage the outside second. Three-quarters 129-4. Around the far turn, Niatros in front by a length. Storm Damage the outside second. Trenton Time on the rail third. Gap of a length and a half. Stone Racer fourth. Secret Service the outside fifth. They come to the top of the stretch. Niatros in front by a length and a quarter. Trenton Time second. Storm Damage third. Through the stretch, Niatros in front now by 2. Trenton Time second. Niatros and Trenton Time. Niatros in front. Here's the finish. Number 2, Niatros, the winner by about a length and a half. Number 1, Trenton Time finishing second. And we'll wait on the photo for the show spot. And now back to Stan Bergstein and Spencer.
Where's the best place to find your favorite teams, your favorite food, daily drink specials, and wagering on live horse racing? Legends Field Sports Bar, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. Get your game on day or night with 75 flat-screen TVs, tournament-style pool tables, a private banquet room, and live horse racing. So if someone asks you, where's the best sports bar in the Capital Region? Tell them Legends Field Sports Bar, inside the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at capitalotb.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by our friend, the Big A, Anthony Stabile. Anthony, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. What's happening?
Not too much. Happy to have you on. As we went into the break, I was playing the 1980 Kane Pace from Yonkers so we could hear the call from Bullet Bob Meyer, who passed away recently. And I was saying as a kid, I remember those old WOR shows, Channel 9 from New York. In the afternoon, you'd have Charles C. Canny, Frank Wright, Dave Johnson. At night, Spencer Russ and Stan Bergstein. And I remember the voice of Bob Meyer from those days. Are you old enough to remember those shows on WOR?
I'm not only old enough to remember those shows, I can tell you this. Tom Durkin's my idol. And I have probably heard more Bullet Bob Meyer calls in my life than I've heard Tom Durkin calls. The old OTB channel down here, the New York City OTB channel. Me and my old man used to play Yonkers almost every night. And just hearing Bob, really a part of the soundtrack of my life. passed away this week, and I graduated St. John's in '98, and the bulk of my friends were in the pharmacy school there, and the building was St. Albert's Hall, and they had the best egg sandwiches in their cafeteria. So I spent the bulk of my time at St. John's in the St. Albert's Hall cafeteria, and there were two trotters, two pacers, Honoring Breton and Speedy Jones, and they were bottom-level horses, and they ran against each other. I believe when they retired on the same night a bunch of years back, at the age of 14, they had run against each other 63 times. Except the night they retired, they split the race and they made it to double. I think Honoring Breton won, Speedy Jones was second. The amount of times I sat in that St. Albert's Hall cafeteria saying, Honoring Breton on the inside, Speedy Jones on the outside, head and head, nose and nose for the lead, through the stretch, and just going into the Bullet Bob on a hungover Monday morning is, I wish we all had $1 for it. We wouldn't have to work anymore. But I snuck in a through the stretch in my call on Thursday. I called the fourth, and I snuck in a through the stretch. So
very good. And again, I played it because I remember those old WRR shows, and he spent some time up here at Saratoga announcing as well. Really a distinctive voice. So R.I.P. to Bullet Bob Meyer. Also, before we get to today, I wanted to go back to New Year's Day and just get your thoughts on Independence Hall. I thought it was a pretty good way to kick off the 3-year-old season in New York. Now, the buyer number went backwards a little bit. He went from the triple digit in the Nashua to an 83 in the Jerome. But, he wins by a chart margin of 4, and there's plenty of racing to go before the Kentucky Derby. So I thought it was a good way to kick off the 3-year-old season for Trombetta's Independence Hall. What were your thoughts on the performance?
I don't ordinarily do this because, as we know from my Talking Horses gig, I'm not always the stat man. But on the call-in show on HRN Thursday night, Ed DeRosa and I discussed this with quite a few callers. Independence Hall was the topic of conversation, I can tell you that. And I know that on the Ragozin sheets, he paired 4s in the Nashua and the Jerome, so he did not regress.
Okay.
I know on Brisnet, he ran a 94 in his debut, a 101 in the Nashua, and another 94 in the Jerome. And then I know Bayer had it mid-80s, the 101, and then mid-80s again. I'm going to tell you this. I was here doing HRN radio on New Year's Day. I don't think I've ever seen a horse act up
yes.
the entire time he or she was in the paddock until New Year's Day 2020. He did not stop it. I'm going to tell you what. I've been around horses since I'm 3 years old. When I was a kid, I was afraid of dogs, but would go in and knock off one of my old man's 5 and 10 claimers at the Meadowlands without a problem. Was not afraid of horses, was afraid of dogs. Been around horses my whole life. That horse had a look in his eye and was acting in that paddock here at the Big A on New Year's Day, like he had menacing on his mind. And the fact that everybody got out of there unscathed, and he won by a comfortable margin, it talks to just how talented he is. But Seth, I got to tell you, you know as well as I do, New Year's Day at Aqueduct is not what he's going to encounter the rest of the way on this Triple Crown Trail as far as crowd size and noise goes. And keep in mind now, that's the second time he was in this paddock. If he goes out of, if he doesn't follow the Withers or the Gotham path, he's going to have a brand new paddock to deal with. And we've seen horses with as much talent, if not more talent, than Independence Hall become completely unglued mentally.
It will be interesting to see next start. They're down at Tampa and where he goes and how he acts and if they can get that under control, because you're exactly right. And the crowds only get bigger and bigger on the Derby Trail. All right, let's jump in and get some thoughts for today. We'll shift over to Aqueduct in a moment, but you've got some thoughts on one of the stakes down at Gulfstream today, the Marshall's River, a 1 1/16 on the grass. Nice little field in here, scheduled field of 7. Andina Del Sur will certainly take some action. Sweet By and By likely to take some action as well. But what are your thoughts in the Marshall's River at Gulfstream?
Yeah, you throw in Munchkin money, and you have 3 seasoned young ladies, 5, and 7 years of age now. They've certainly been doing battle for a long time, and their stakes tested. I'm going to go to Chad Brown and Magic Star. This is the filly a lot of people remember broke her maiden in the final race of the 13-race card on Travers Day, gave Chad his 5th win on the card. She came back in an allowance race and did not run very well. I don't know what happened that day. I know this. I know Chad obviously saw the nominations. He saw the field, and he knows he's going in there against some salty filly. And the fact that he's still going to run this filly in this race, I just think speaks to the amount of talent he thinks she has. And let's face it, Seth. Andino Del Sur, Sweet By and By, Munchkin Money, they're nice fillies and mares. Well, all mares now, but certainly not any or all of them not going to keep you from dropping your slip in the entry box. So I'll take my chances with the up-and-coming filly over the proven fillies, and I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that the big part of the reason is the connections.
Yeah, and the 9-2, I think I wouldn't be surprised if that holds up with the other three mentioned in here. I think they're going to take a lot of action, and this is still a lightly raced Chad horse, so maybe a little bit of value there as well. In the midst of that rainbow sequence, also gives a horse one for folks to maybe think about on their ticket with a little bit of value at least. All right, let's shift over to Aqueduct, race number 3. It's that time of year. We ended the year with some nice 2-year-old maiden races and early allowance races, and now the calendar has changed. Now we're looking at early 3-year-olds and potentially ones that will wind up being ones we want to watch as the year progresses. I think this is that kind of race at Aqueduct today. Third race, 3-year-old maiden specials going a mile. I took a little pop with Wildcat West, the Jason Service trainee. Speaking of connections, Madacat, Michael Dubb. Probably number-wise has to step it up just a little bit in here. Not much, but I think that's possible moving into the Jason Service barn. So I'm going to take a little pop with the number 7. But how did you see race number 3?
Yeah, well, in case you hadn't heard, it's a one-horse race because First Line, according to his trainer Orlando Noda, is the second coming. And he's going to the Kentucky Derby. So, look, I was at Belmont for a little while this morning, taking care of some business, and I always love getting out to the training track, which, by the way, is in sensational shape. The fact that we have all the horses consolidated at Belmont now, no problems over at that training track. Everything is just going according to plan, and it's in really good shape. This horse is talented. A lot of people have seen this horse train in the morning. His jockey, Ray Lou Gutierrez, is being on him. He told me yesterday, he said, look, this horse is talented. But, the other comment you hear from a lot of people was he's a little green. Well, now he's got to deal with the mile. He's got to deal with the chute. He's got to deal with the rail. If he breaks, and the consensus has been, if he breaks, he's going to win. There's a 6.5 furlong book race next week that I'm a little surprised he didn't wait for. But again, he thinks he's taking him to the Kentucky Derby, so I guess he doesn't have time to go 6.5. He's got to get a mile under him so he can run him in a Gotham or whatever the plan is next. I'm saying this a bit tongue-in-cheek, but, if this horse runs to his height, he could win this race. Like you, I went to Wildcat West. I don't know if this was a sale. I don't know if this was at one of the Keeneland sales or one of the November sales or if this was a private purchase. I know this horse ran for Gary and Mary West first time out for Wayne Catalano, and this horse has been purchased by Mike Dubb and Saul Kuhlman and the rest of the bunch over at Bethlehem. So Jason Service will run this horse for the first time. I don't worry about the class, the 50, and, the speed figure. I don't worry myself with that too much with 2-year-olds anymore. The 2-year-old game, as the whole game has changed, nothing's changed more than the 2-year-old game. They don't run the allowance race anymore. It's made in stakes for the most part. And I'm not too worried that he ran for a tag. He ran well. He's going to, stay at the mile. It's a 1-turn mile now as opposed to that funky 2-turn mile at Keeneland with the short stretch and the short run to the first turn. So, I went with him. I wouldn't be surprised if Call Me Later on the cutback from Mike Maker. He ran 2 turns after 1-6 furlong race, a mile and an eighth here. It'll be his first try on a fast track. Like I said, First Line wouldn't surprise me. War Stopper, blinkers go on for Rudy. He ran against what's probably Chad Brown's best 2-year-old turning 3 in cost basis. Modernist was in there. And another horse who didn't run poorly first time out, ran a sneaky good race with the 2 Maddie's Marauder for Dave Donk, who's having a good Aqueduct meet. Eric Cancell's riding well. He wouldn't surprise me either, stretching out from 6 to a mile with just about 5 weeks between races. So First line better be as good as his connections think if he's going to get out of the maiden ranks in that third race.
Yeah, I had Orlando Noda on with us up at Saratoga, and a fun guy and easy to root for. And that would be fun if he had a nice little 3-year-old at this point in the year. All right, let's move on to the feature today at Aqueduct. The Safe Florida Sandy, $100,000 up for grabs, 4-year-olds and up, going 7 furlongs. While we talk, I pulled up the allowance event from December 29th. The number 10 will be the Caretaker. I thought off of that race, it just kind of signals the horse may be in some very good form right now. I'm going to tilt in that direction. But, boy, this is a nice competitive field. What did you see in the Safe Florida Sandy?
I'm with you, my friend. Safe Florida Sandy, by the way, quick trivia. Broke his maiden 1996 on Father's Day. My dad was representing Dale Cordova. It was a very good Father's Day. I can put it to you like that. We were getting that horse ready for an awful long time. I'm with you with the Caretaker. You know, Rudy Rodriguez, in my opinion, and we have some fantastic claiming trainers in this game. Just here alone in New York, 3 of the best in Jason Service, Linda Rice, and Rudy Rodriguez. I don't think anybody's better than Rudy. That's my opinion. He claimed this horse for the 40, and this horse had never run as well as he has in his last 2 starts. Rudy got him pointed in the right direction. Again, back to Chad Brown, Free Enterprise, I think, is going to be there's a stakes win in his future, at least one. And then he came back 5 weeks later, and he just dusted a nice field of horses, hard knockers like Charlie McCoy and Potomac. I think he gets a good setup in here. The horse like Author's Hope with Kendrick Carmouche, who I would imagine is going to go to the lead. He's drawn a little bit better than the last time he faced some of these horses. My boy Tate, even though he wasn't on the pace last time, I would think, second start off the 13 months, he's going to be forwardly placed. Even Avino Malcanu from the rail, I don't know if he's as fast as the other two, but he almost has to lead for position. Morning Breeze is always forwardly placed, so I think the Caretaker is just in the right spot in the offing. I'll use him with my boy Tate. It's really hard to get past his 5 for 6 record at Aqueduct. I do think he was aided by the wet track last time. He's 4 for 4 on the wet track. His races have been a touch faster on the wet than they have the dry. I know it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other, really. But and Author's Hope. Author's Hope wouldn't surprise me. He's getting a key rider upgrade to Kendrick Carmouche here. He ran against another hard-knocking field in Wicked Trick, who's won a bunch of races in a row now. Chateau's a hard knocker at that 62.5 open level. He's back in with the State Breds. Gets a more favorable pace scenario in here as he's drawn outside of the other speeds, and he gets one of the best gate riders in the business in Kendrick Carmouche. He may be the biggest threat to the Caretaker when all's said and done. I'll make a 7-3, 7-6. I'll use the 3 of them in one pick 5 ticket. I'll lean on the Caretaker in another one.
And I'll just toss out the Caretaker, ridden by Jose Lascano, who has risen to the top of the colony here at this point in the meet. I mean, he is just riding lights out at this point.
Let me tell you what, Seth. Him and his agent, his longtime agent, Jason Bidas, split up for a while. And when they reunited sometime in late 2018 and made the decision to stay in New York last winter and not go to Florida, that's hard for some of these guys. These guys, especially the ones that have tasted the success in South Florida, to realize that maybe your business doesn't warrant going down there. Maybe it's better off if you build your clientele back up here. And look, Jason and Jose have done a great job doing that, right? Essentially first call rider for Linda, essentially first call rider for Jason Service, and he's riding Rudy in the stakes today. So I give Jose as an excellent rider. If you told me to make a list of the guys I've made the most money with in my life gambling, Jose Lascano's in that top 3, believe me. But Jason deserves a lot of the credit here. Jason's done a great job managing Jose and the career again. And, maybe South Florida's in the future again one of these days. But I tell you what, when you're winning as many races as you do up here, and you have a little bit easier time as the colony gets a little lighter this time of year than it is from, say, April to November, they've done an amazing job, and I wish them continued success. They're both good guys, and they both work really hard.
Yeah, again, so far at the meet, he has really clearly separated himself from the bunch. Anthony, as always, we appreciate the conversation. Wish you a lot of good luck today, and we will talk again.
Too, and Happy New Year. I haven't talked to you guys since the New Year. Hopefully we cash plenty of tickets and bang home and call home. Plenty. I'm calling the last 5 tomorrow. So
nice. We haven't talked since you did your first stakes race too. And we sit in here. I do the afternoon handicapping show, and I've mentioned it to you before. As compared to the first couple of calls you did, you were good then, but you've eased into it now, and you're doing a great job on the race calls as well.
Appreciate that, Seth. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was my dream. So I tell everybody tomorrow's not work. Tomorrow I get to go to my dream. So.
Very good. Anthony, again, appreciate it. We'll talk.
We'll talk to you soon.
Anthony Stabile, the big A from Aqueduct, a couple ideas. There also an idea today, the Marshalls River down at Gulfstream. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Racing Across America. Let me remind you of those promos again, because today there is the Fan Appreciation Day at the Queensbury branch. That's the Mount Royal Shopping Plaza, Route 9 in Queensbury, noon until 5. Fan Appreciation Day today in Queensbury. Tomorrow, NFL Sunday here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Love to see you swing by and enjoy football and racing. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. And a 1% bonus day with your Aqueduct wagers. Get a 1% bonus Sunday, tomorrow. There are some restrictions. Check out the website, capitalotb.com. All right. I'm going to wrap things up. Normally, I would say I'd be back in an hour for OTB Live, but I have powered through this hour as I am a little bit under the weather. So I think I'm going to head out, recoup and regroup for tomorrow, so we can hand out some good information tomorrow. So I will wish you a lot of good luck for today. A good day. There's a couple of nice stakes. And again, we talked a little bit with Saffie Joseph about Tusk, and we talked with them about the Marshalls River with Anthony. So a couple of interesting stakes at Gulfstream and the State Florida Sandy in New York. But there's nothing today on the stakes card that is jumping out. But there is the $2.5 million guarantee on the Rainbow. That's going to add a little excitement to the afternoon. Linda Rice chasing the 2,000 career victories. And again, she has scheduled before Scratch's entrance in the 5th and the 6th at Aqueduct. So there's a little sub-story to watch as well. And every day is fun and exciting if you're cashing some tickets. So hopefully that's the game plan for you this afternoon. Enjoy all the racing. As I say, cash some tickets, tuck some money in your pocket. We'll see you again tomorrow.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.